Simon here once again, and welcome to another quickie introduction to Prince2. In this session, we shall be talking about Prince2 in general, and I'd like to give you a quick overview of Prince2. We can see that there are several books. There's a Prince2 manual, which it's called Managing Successful Projects. Yeah, that's our standard manual. There is also another one aimed at senior management. It's called Directing. It refers to the directing a project aspect of Prince2. Yeah. Now, this diagram that you can see is taken from the Prince2 manual with copyright to what used to be called the OGC and now under the Cabinet Office of the UK. Here we can see that if you look at the central part of the diagram, the Prince2 processes, there are 7 processes, groups of activities that has to be carried out before the project starts. During beginning of the project, middle of the project, and end of the projects, we'll be spending a fair bit of time talking about those processes later on. These processes are surrounded by 7 themes, and I shall not insult you by reading out the names of the themes. You can refer to them in the slides later on. Now, with these Prince2 themes, what are the themes about? Okay, we shall talk about it in a moment. And underlying the whole thing are the Prince2 principles. Let's talk about the principles first. The principles are basically guiding obligations and good practices. Okay, these 7 in all, that's the way we have classified them in Prince2, are meant to be applied throughout the project. Yeah, if these basic 7 fundamental principles are not applied, then we can't call it a Prince2 project. What about the themes? The themes, again, 7 of them, are various aspects of project management. Whether you do Prince2 or you do any other methodology or no method, funded method, you will find that these are the 7 types of things that has to be considered if your project wants to kind of have a high rate of success. So the 7 aspects of project management that has to be addressed continually throughout the whole project, and all of these things happen at the same time. Unlike processes, which kind of are usually set to trigger off and set to happen at various parts of the projects, the aspects which we have listed here: risk, plans, quality, organization, business case, progress, and change. All these things have to happen more or less in parallel. These things are always either at the forefront or at the back of your mind as a project manager when you're carrying out projects. So with the Prince2 processes, and incidentally the numbers you see there refer to the Prince2 manual. Yeah, so I would really suggest that you buy yourself a copy of the Prince2 manual, and if you have any problems, just give me a call or drop me a basically all these 3 clusters or groups of things that you see here, which Prince2 addresses, basically they form a framework for effective governance of projects. So if you want to have your projects under good governance, remember here we're not talking about specific individual techniques or skills, big and small skills that a project manager needs to have. Of course, those things are important, but here in Prince2, the focus is very much on proper governance of the project. And if you look at something else that is probably not as easy to specify within Prince2, one of the fundamental ideas behind Prince2 is that there must be a fair bit of tailoring. Why? Because there is no such thing as a method, whether it's Prince2 or some other method, that can be applied by the book. You cannot actually follow things by the book in exact detail for any method. So a certain degree of tailoring is required, and that's why even with Prince2, some experience is needed in running a project. So, and Prince2, by the way, is specified in a very flexible way, so that there are some parts of the specifications in Prince2 that needs you really to have some idea of what you are going to do, because Prince2 doesn't really tell you every single step of the way exactly what to do, exactly what to record, how you deal with people. And of course, you find that there are other things like specialist skills. Like if you are running a project for software development, you need software development skills, right? You probably also need software development methodology. PRINCE2 is actually a project management methodology, not a system development. For those of you who come from IT background. And if you're running a construction, housing development, building construction, that kind of thing, yeah, kind of projects, then again, you need specialist skills in those areas, yeah. So PRINCE2 doesn't really address those areas because PRINCE2 is meant to be a flexible project management method that can be used for all kinds of projects, yeah. And there's other benefits to that because in many projects you find that different disciplines are involved that have their own methodologies and approaches and procedures, and you therefore find it extremely useful with something like PRINCE2 that actually can be used by everybody, and that's how they used to coordinate their information for their projects. The other thing that PRINCE2 doesn't address are the kind of soft skills, like how do you deal with people, negotiation skills, very important in running projects, leadership skills, how do you lead a group of people. Those things are extremely important in any projects. However, PRINCE2 doesn't try to specify those things. They are kind of references to those aspects. However, we know from experience that you can't really specify exactly how do you practice leadership, for example. So we don't really in PRINCE2, but in project management we do make use of those things, and there will be some other areas of learning that you can adopt, that you can seek out in order to learn those things, yeah, and dovetail those skills into a PRINCE2 project. And of course, detailed techniques like estimation methods. PRINCE2 does say that you need to do estimation, for example, when you're planning a project. However, PRINCE2 does not lay down all the different estimation techniques because that is really beyond the scope of something like PRINCE2, and you can go and look at certain bodies of knowledge, like project management. PMBOK, for example, is a good example of where you can get hold of those techniques. Yeah, so keep in mind that there's a methodology for governance projects, and there are individual techniques that you source for this information places. Now, in the next session, we'll be talking about the underlying principles of PRINCE2. So, in the meantime, in order not to bore you to death and to tire you out with a long lecture, it's me, Simon Seow, signing up.